Yeah, so let's just start with the basic question. This word, purpose, what does it mean to you? What does it evoke for you?
Mm.
Please share your teachings and thoughts and wisdom.
Great, thank you. For me, there are two major dimensions to purpose, which each can be broken down into further subcategories. So I sometimes frame it as absolute purpose and relative purpose. And for me, absolute purpose is that natural tendency of the universe to wake up to itself, to come to know itself as an unbounded whole. And in that sense of absolute purpose, there is a process that can unfold, either suddenly or gradually. And we find that this process is often taught in our world's great religious and spiritual traditions. My personal practice comes from the orientation of Dzogchen and Mahamudra within the Tibetan lineages. And absolute purpose in that particular context is to come to know our own true nature as unbounded wholeness. So I like to contrast that with what I'd call relative purpose. And relative purpose would be more relating to our unique soul purpose and personality purpose, and how those unfold in each of our individual lives. So for me, I often define soul as one's trans-incarnational passion, pleasure, and pain, and the ways that passion or pleasure and pain mix together often result in one's purpose. There's a unique constellation that comes through the soul in that way. And on a personality level, I often speak about purpose being how that passion and pain and purpose mix with the unique family circumstances, cultural circumstances, and individual makeup that any one of us has. And so rather than sort of seeing these all as separate, I see it as an unfolding continuum, that in the absolute sense, we wake up to our own nature as unbounded wholeness. But that unbounded wholeness manifests itself uniquely as a soul purpose with this sense of passion and pain trans-incarnationally. But then that manifests uniquely through us as individuals and our personality in any given life. So for me, purpose really is at the heart of everything that I do, and I know everything that you do, because purpose helps us prioritize what matters most, helps give us a direction, helps give us a sense of meaning much broader than we might normally have in our lives. And for me, the whole process of awakening to purpose, both on the absolute level and on the relative level of soul and personality, sets the foundation for what it means to live a truly meaningful and productive life that can give back and be of service to others. And within that frame, I think that there's probably many different directions that we can go. Now, for me, I was raised in an environment that, on a level of personality, that really emphasized achievement. It emphasized accomplishment. I went to the best schools that I could for university and for my graduate work, Cornell and Harvard. I really focused on how I could contribute and give back to society. So on a personality level, my purpose was actually deeply defined by the cultural and family container that I was in. But there was always something deeper for me. There was always a desire to learn everything I could about the meaning of life and about death. I, at an early age, came across the Upanishads and began reading about Eastern traditions and Eastern philosophy. And I also started to have quite extraordinary experiences of astral travel, leaving my body in my mid-teens. And I began to realize that there's something more than just achievement. There's something more than just giving back to the world in a more traditional way. And I began to understand that there's something about wisdom. There's something about understanding why we're here and what it is that we're really here and meant to do. So I would say it was in my teens and in my early 20s that purpose really became the central focus of my life. And through a series of both pain and passion, I've found my way to where I am now. So maybe I'll just say a bit about the pain side, because I think sharing our human experience is always helpful. So I grew up in a pretty open-minded household, but my mother had struggled with alcoholism, and that ended up creating a lot of chaos in my teenage life and in my younger years. And it brought a lot of pain, both for me, for my family, for others. And I always say that, that even that pain was balanced with a ton of joy, and my mother provided a really incredible foundation for us. But there was something about that pain that sparked something for me. It sparked a sense that there was something dissatisfying about life itself, not just my own circumstances, but it put me in touch with the pain of all the human beings that I came in contact with and everybody that I'd meet. Everybody had their story around pain. So I found that pain was a sort of catalyst for me to look for something deeper. And on the other side, having been exposed to all these deep spiritual teachings and having been told that not only are there ideas about spiritual awakening, but there are particular pathways and practices that we can do, that we can set our life on, that actually lead towards a realization of something deeper, a realization of something higher, a realization of something more true than everyday experience. So it was something about the balance of that pain of feeling dissatisfied and then the purpose or passion around discovering truth and discovering meaning. Those two really came together in a way that opened my heart to the suffering of humanity, the suffering of my own life, but also to the radiant possibility of finding a deeper sense of wholeness. And so for me personally, I've given my life to translating these ancient wisdoms into modern language that can really resonate with people, and doing that in a way that is in touch with pain, but also fully in touch with the beauty and the magnificence of life when it comes from this deeper awakened sense of wholeness. And I often find that sometimes spiritual teachings and teachers tend to lean a little bit towards one side or the other. They don't take this middle path. They might emphasize purpose, or they might emphasize wisdom. And when emphasizing wisdom, they somehow say, well, the pain and all this stuff is all part of duality, and somehow it's not included in the bigger picture. And I found that to be quite a dangerous view. I certainly, in my own experience, at least spent several years, not a whole lot, but several years of my life in sort of a dissociated state from my own pain and my own humanity. And if I've learned anything in the years that I've been practicing and the years that I've been sharing teachings with others, it's that ultimately it's about waking up to our divinity, but also fully embodying what it means to be human, and recognizing there actually isn't a gap between the two, that the absolute is the relative, but the relative is the absolute, that our pain and our passion, our pain and our purpose can coexist in a really elegant harmony. And in fact, we can find that our unique pain leaves us with battle scars that then help us learn and know our tribe, who else has those battle scars that we can share with. And it's a dance that I think is unending between those two. But the more we stay in touch with both purpose and pain, I think the more we're apt to be of service and to be in contact with others in a way that truly has meaning for them.
Mm-hmm. You speak so beautifully. The distinction between waking up to our divinity and waking up to our humanity.
Yeah.
Do you find it most efficacious to use this, hold lightly this model of the dance between spirit and soul? I found it helpful to have spirit, soul, and personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you kind of come down with that?
Yeah, for me, at least those three layers are most important. So I like to say spirit, soul, personality, because I think that it gives a bit more nuance. So if we just zoom in a bit on each of those layers, I'll say what I mean. And some of this may be familiar to listeners, but it's easy to gloss over things. So I want to recap in a very specific way. Each of us are born into particular families, and we're born into particular cultures. We each have our own set of language that we use to communicate to each other. We even have our own typologies, body types, personality types. All those things are really part of this lens that I call the personality, that those are some of the things that make us unique. And those things are inherited in this particular life, and they're constructed in this particular life from your birth up until this moment. So the horizon of the personality is a bit smaller than the horizon of, say, the soul. So when I talk about the soul, I'm not only talking about that which you've experienced in this life, but the soul for me is a trans-incarnational identity. That means that it's the identity that we bring into this life, but it's a deeper sense that it's had multiple different experiences in multiple different personalities. And that soul component is a much richer, a much older, a much wiser aspect of ourselves. And so we might find that at first we tune into a sense of purpose on the level of personality, but as we deepen that and as we align with that, very quickly we might find that there's something even fuller, something richer in our hearts that wants to expose itself. And I call that soul purpose. So on the level of personality, the horizon is this lifetime. Level of soul, the horizon is many lifetimes. There's a trans-incarnational component. But then there's a level of spirit. And the level of spirit to me is a universal purpose, and it's singular. And that spirit, the intention and the purpose behind spirit is to wake up to itself, to know itself as all of this radiant arising that we're experiencing in any given moment. And for me, if you continue to take soul purpose deep enough, eventually what starts to happen is you feel so aligned with both the energies that move through your life, but aligned and harmonious with the world around you, that it's very easy to then open up into this deeper purpose of spirit, to know itself, to feel that sense of undivided wholeness with everyone and everything around you. So for me, there's something very particular about the horizon of spirit and that it's infinite. So if we say personality has the horizon of a particular lifetime, soul, trans-incarnational, the horizon of spirit is infinitely here. It's always now, but at the same time, it's infinitely expandable to all times and all locations, all places, all at once. And that's a dimension that I think is extremely useful, because it's only from the spirit dimension that you actually experience liberation. You actually experience a sense of freedom. A freedom from also, but a freedom to fully manifest soul purpose and personality purpose in any given lifetime.
This, Maha awakening on the one hand, does it necessarily or usually awaken the soul capacity?
Great question. So in my particular experience, I did the reverse. I started with spirit and then moved into soul and then moved into personality. And so I had inklings when I was growing up of these particular soul purpose moments or personality purpose moments. But in my early 20s, I set myself on a mission that all I cared about was this radical awakening that you mentioned with Brahmana Maharshi and these other great Advaitic sages. And there was something to that. There was something that opened around the nature of interconnectedness, or the nature of undivided wholeness that was true, that was authentic. And at the same time, I found in my experience that particular opening didn't inform soul purpose or personality purpose. So it wasn't as if awakening to this deeper sense of wholeness, it wasn't as if then automatically what came online was my soul purpose or my personality purpose. I found that what that opening did is it gave me a sense of freedom. It gave me a sense of infinite possibility. It gave me a sense of knowing that I'm home and that everything's okay no matter what. That this is the great perfection as it's arising. But it didn't tell me the content of the relative world and how I should be with that content or how I should manifest that content. So for me, the discovery of soul purpose is still unfolding in such incredible ways. And I would guess that that soul purpose and the ways that I can share that with the world may never end. So although some sort of deeper realization of spirit is in fact possible for every human being, and in fact is the most natural thing, and that is something that can happen in a flash, in an instant, and can be recognized, soul purpose to me happens in time and unfolds in time in an evolutionary way. And there's no sense of it ever, in my sense, being complete. I think it's always refined more and more and more. And that's part of the joy of soul, is that it's always willing to be discovered. in more nuanced and more sophisticated ways so that we can give our gifts to the world. And I think same thing about the personality. Each incarnation is unique, and each incarnation is going to be refined until the moment we transition. So definitely, I think it's possible to do it in reverse. I think that in fact, it's probably common that people do it in reverse. However, I would say that it's not. We shouldn't assume that it necessarily will happen unless people have guidance, unless people have some direction of knowing what is what. And once you know that you're the whole, once you know that you're not different from everything that's arising, sometimes people lose motivation, and that's a trap. People lose motivation to actually keep going in that individual and unique way. So I think with the right guidance, with the right frames, with the right teachers and the right teachings, the right community, we can live the fullest possible potential of spirit, soul, and personality all integrated as one fluid pathway of what it means to be divine and human.
So are there currently, so there certainly have been rich traditions of spiritual awakening, the ones you mentioned and what we were just talking about, and traditions of the soul path awakening. Are there any schools, teachers, or books that hold these as co-equal, that have a true love of both of these and support the awakening of both more or less simultaneously?
Yeah, great question. I come from a background that really balances two main mentors. On the one hand, I've spent more than a decade studying with Ken Wilber and studying integral theory. And on the other side, I've spent a bit less time, but close to a decade, studying Mahamudra and Dzogchen in the Tibetan traditions with Daniel P. Brown. And I found that the Tibetan traditions really emphasize awakening. And I haven't found a very substantial amount of teachings that really emphasize this dimension that we're calling soul. There is certainly room for something that's called indestructible essence, which is this aspect of ourselves that actually is carried with us life to life in its own unique imprint, like a thumbprint. But not a lot of teachings in the way that we're speaking about them with regards to soul. And on the integral side with Wilber, I found that there is plenty of room for soul, that soul and these dimensions of uniquely manifesting our own individual purpose or soul purpose is fully accounted for, but just not gone into in a whole lot of depth. So I find it a really rich area for exploration. So to your question, one of the things about books, one of the things that I've worked on over the past few years is a book called Earth is Eden. And this is a book that I published with a dear friend, John Darrell Rue. And Earth is Eden is one of the first books that I'm aware of that in great detail emphasizes both awakening, radical awakening to absolute, as well as soul awakening and personality awakening. And it does so drawing richly from these early traditions that were called theosophy. And theosophy traditions that have then transformed and been adapted, starting with Blavatsky, then Alice Bailey and others, have a really rich understanding of what soul is and how soul can unfold in a particular individual's life. And so to my knowledge, this book, Earth is Eden, is a great resource and in fact does try to integrate soul, personality, and spirit into using an integral frame based on Wilber's work and based on some of the things we know about awakening that I've learned from Dan Brown and my Tibetan teachings.
Beautiful. So would you, I don't mean to put words in your mouth,
Please.
So would you say that we could regard these as three lines of development? One's maturation as an ego or personality, one's deepening in soul, and one's awakening in spirit.
You could look at them as lines, sure. So just to repeat, the frame was, could we look at soul, personality, and spirit as lines of development? I think that's one possible way to do it. That isn't the way that I tend to frame it. I feel that one of the best ways to frame these are as concentric spheres. So if you think about the ultimate sphere of identity or ultimate sphere of awareness, it's unbounded. There are no limits to it. And those of you watching right now, and Jonathan, you too, you can actually start to get a sense that when you actually feel out to the edges of your own awareness, there is no outside, there is no inside, there's just an unbounded whole experience. Within that whole experience, everything arises. Everything arises as an expression of that awareness. Everything is made out of awareness in a certain way. That's the level of the absolute level of spirit. That's the largest sphere, but this isn't exactly a sphere because it has no edges or boundaries and it's non-local. You're not like a point within that sphere, you're the whole. So to me, it's very useful to think about spirit in this sense, like indirect experience right now. And then soul is a bit different. Soul is not locating it spatially, but soul is that aspect of ourselves where we actually feel ourselves come fully alive. There's a sense of knowing who you truly are as a unique individual. And I know that you use the word mythopoetic at times, and I think that's a useful word. But there's also a way in which you can think of it as a soul as like your unique thumbprint that has all the characteristics of all of these transincarnational experiences, and that grows and evolves over time, almost like a character would grow and evolve in a movie scene over the course, or in a novel over the course of the novel. That particular character or being is full of all the deepest gifts that one has to give. That being is full of the deepest wisdom that one has ever carried with him or her. And for me, if you understand that large undivided wholeness, that sense of that open sphere, and within that arises this soul being that takes multiple incarnations, to me you start to get a flavor where rather than looking at it as a map like lines of development, which I think is appropriate, you start to actually feel it now in the present moment. And then if you allow that soul to then actually come into your physical body and recognize that, wow, I'm speaking in English and I have this particular accent, or I have this style of moving my hands. All those are the layers that we would call the personality. So I think it's useful to look at soul, spirit, and personality in lines of development. But I think it's equally or more useful to allow those terms to become embodied, to really feel them now. That this isn't something we're talking about in a third person. This is our first person experience. Your soul isn't somewhere else. Realization or spirit isn't somewhere else. Your personality isn't somewhere else. They're right here. They're the layers of your direct experience that are manifesting through your body in this very moment. And so the moment we know we don't have to go anywhere else to discover soul, the moment we're a step closer to being home and to actually manifesting our destiny here on earth. I remember very specifically, I was probably 16. Had this idea of soul in mind. And I said, what is my soul? Where is it? And in such clear direction, I was actually just pointed right home. That soul wasn't somewhere else. That soul wasn't somewhere I had to get to. But soul was an aspect of my own being that I had to open to, that I had to allow pour through. It's almost like I had to create a bridge from my personality into my soul, and then from that soul into spirit. And those bridges are what the spiritual journey is all about, is creating pathways where eventually there's just superhighways, where it's just spirit manifesting here, right now, as a superhighway into reality. And to me, it's building those superhighways that the spiritual journey really gives us a chance to unfold and unpack.
The viewers, I'm sure, are feeling like, okay, what supports my walking the path of soul, of waking up to soul? So maybe you could share a little bit about, what you did to care for the soul, and what didn't work maybe so well, and what you'd recommend to the viewers to awaken to this dimension of being.
So for me, I just want to be really honest and humble that the journey of awakening to soul is ongoing. I'm still learning about my soul, so I don't think there's a magic bullet. But what I can say is there's a quality of courage that's required to come in contact with your soul. The times in my life where I feel like I have most fully accessed and unpacked new dimensions of soul in my life have been those times when I've been faced with things that are extremely terrifying, emotionally terrifying, mostly emotionally terrifying. And I sometimes people use the word fearless, and I don't actually think fearless is what we're looking for, because for me, that's just unrealistic. We experience things that are actually quite fearful. I think courage is the word we're looking for. And I've heard courage once defined as um, actually standing and facing whatever it is that's arising, even when fear is also present. And so for me in my life, just to give a small example, I've just gone through something in my life and in my marriage that actually required me to just not turn away, to have full courage to face all the things in myself that still are imperfect, that are ugly, that aren't the things that are the things I want to show first to the world. And in doing that, in facing that pain or that imperfection with courage, despite the fear, it was like my soul just had room to grow and had room to fully manifest and embody itself more than I've ever done so before. And so for me, courage is actually the first key. Courage to face everything in your life. Because it's in those dimensions that we've tucked away or that we're scared to face that some of the gold or some of the riches that actually are covering our soul, that are the source that nourish our soul, actually reside. So courage is number one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So agree. Anything else that you want to bring the attention of the viewers to in terms of, they're so hungry for soul?
I have a friend who once said that there are two kinds of spiritual people. There are those people who are spiritual and that they study spirituality and they talk about spirituality and, the classic person we'd call spiritual. The other type of spiritual people are those who just simply are spiritual by their actions and the way they are in the world. And so a second dimension, in addition to courage, it has to do with conduct. And certainly, if you are curious about soul, you can read books and you can have conversations with friends. But to me, where soul really comes alive is where you're manifesting in your own life. So the second dimension is conduct and manifestation. How are you actually offering something or bringing something, birthing something in the world? In what ways are you doing that? And if you're not, how can you do that? So one of the classic examples that I like to use is the idea of music, just on a very simple level. That learning to play an instrument, or learning to sing a song, or learning somehow to share in the immediate moment, to bring something forth to life. There's something about that that actually has a soul quality to it. I think about friends in my own life when I started writing poetry and actually like expressing. For me, writing books has been a huge expression of soul. So around manifestation and conduct, if you can find the places in your life where you can actually create something, maybe you want to build something, maybe you want to plant something in your garden and watch it grow, maybe you want to have a child. These qualities of recognizing that you're not only open, spacious, absolute awareness, but that you're here as a unique individual and that your life matters, and that how you show up in the world and how others show up in the world actually can create things together. So there's a creative dimension to soul that I think shouldn't be undermined. So if we combine the courage to look at everything in ourselves with the courage and the creativity to actually manifest through behavior and through conduct, I think we're starting to fill out some of these pieces of how we actually find the muscles or build the muscles to bring soul into the world in our everyday life.
Are there any, in my language I will sometimes call them soul encounter technologies or techniques. Are there any that you have experienced that you feel, this can help people as they grapple with the question, what is my purpose? How do I know the answer to that question?
For me, dreams have been so incredibly important. And from an early age, I learned how to lucid dream. I learned how to become aware within the dream state and to consciously influence the dream state. And dreams for me hold keys to our soul. And I would encourage anybody who's interested in deeper soul excavation to really pay attention to their dreams. And so here are a couple ways to do it. So the first is that keeping a dream journal can be extremely effective. Every morning when you wake up, write down anything you remember from your dream state. If you don't remember anything, then no problem. Just sit there and say, I don't remember anything. But eventually what will start to happen is that each morning, if you do this, more and more dream recall will come online. You'll be able to recall things in a very specific way. And you'll start to notice over time, as you write down dreams, that there are themes that arise. And there are themes, and there might be particular dream scenarios that are common that you may not have otherwise noticed. So themes and commonalities across time actually begin to give us aspects of ourself or our unconscious that we may not necessarily have been aware of. These are gateways or keys into our soul. The second piece is that once you've started dream recall, I highly encourage the practice of lucid dreaming, the practice of learning how to live out your dream life in a way that has deep meaning and purpose. Two very simple ways to do that are to do what are called reality checks. So if you're wandering throughout the day, every time you turn on a light switch, you can think to yourself, am I dreaming? And then in time, you'll be in a dream, you'll turn on a light switch, you'll ask yourself if you're dreaming, and in fact, you'll recognize that you are indeed dreaming. Another thing is a reality check using your hands, so that every time you look down at your hands, you just take a moment and say, am I dreaming? And by asking yourself every time you see your hands if you're dreaming, then naturally in the dream state what will start to happen is that you'll notice that you're dreaming by looking at your hands. These are very simple hacks to learn how to lucid dream. And the reason I emphasize that is because the dream state, it has a very particular quality to it. The Tibetans call the dream body like the enjoyment body, because there's something about our dream body that allows us to explore things that otherwise wouldn't be possible. And I found that one of the realms of soul that becomes so magical is its infinite creativity. There's just an outflow, an outpouring of possibility and creativity. And for me, in lucid dreaming, I was able to sort of learn what is the natural creativity that I'd want to express in a dream. Is it flying? Is it teaching? Is it creating landscapes? These are all elements that actually can be extremely inspiring. And as you learn them in the dream, there's no risk. You can try out anything, and there's no limitations. There's infinite possibility. And for me, the dream landscape is something that really allows us an opportunity to then learn who we are as a soul, because it taps into our passions. It taps into the possibilities of who we can be. And once that's learned in the dream state, it's a natural step to start taking those qualities into the waking state. And so for me, dreams, learning to dream journal, learning to lucid dream, remembering your dreams, these are critical elements to bring soul online in everyday life in a very simple way. And it's fun.
Good. No, I'm sure people appreciate the practical teaching. That's great. So many directions. In your understanding, are there, you use the concentric circles, are there layers of purpose? Like there could be an individual's purpose, a community's purpose, a species' purpose, the purpose of the universe. You're nodding, so maybe does that spark something?
Yeah. Purpose is such a fun topic because purpose lies at the heart of the cosmos. You know, there's a directionality, there's a movement, there's a vibration to come into form. And for me, we can look at purpose as a fractal that has resonance in multiple different spheres or scales. And so let's start big, because for me, the big purpose is sort of where I orient from in my everyday life, and I find it to be really exciting. So there's clearly something happening on a multi-universe scale. There's an ever-increasing display of things, of appearances, of let's say stars on one level, let's say galaxies on another. There's a sense that there's a coming into form of a radiant physical realm that continually expands and continually exposes itself to itself. For me, that large-scale purpose is something that we can actually start to feel in our bodies and in our beings. We can learn to align a certain aspect of our own sense of self with that cosmic exploding cosmos. And that to me is the sort of the foundational ground of universal purpose. But purpose is a little bit like a dial on a television. And if we begin to turn the knob a bit and we tune into a different dimension, we can actually find that, oh, there are all these other layers of purpose. So if we just turn the knob down a bit, we actually find, wow, there's a planetary purpose. And I can't imagine that or pretend I'm speaking for the cosmos or I'm speaking for the planetary purpose, but I can certainly offer you the way that I experience it. And I think that that in some ways could help you fine tune your own dial so that you can feel into cosmic or planetary purpose in your own way. So I want to be humble about that. So on a planetary level, there's a sense that the Earth itself is a living organism that is living, is breathing, has actually given birth to us as part of the Earth. There's an aspect of our awareness that if we tune into it, we actually feel ourselves as the planetary we. We feel ourselves as the planet, as Gaia herself. It's not like it's something else out there. The purpose of the planet isn't something that the planet has as an it, and then we're somehow separate from it. We can feel planetary purpose moving through us when we eat food, when we're nourishing our bodies. We're actually taking from the earth and we're bringing it into our being, and we're allowing that to nourish ourselves so we become fully alive. We can dial it so we actually feel ourselves as the earth and as that planetary purpose to move further and further into the cosmos and to ultimately survive. And I have hope around climate change in the sense that I think that we will be forced to come into contact with planetary purpose, that planetary purpose that lives through us. And there is an inherent impulse as the planet to survive and to thrive. And I think that we as a human species will be forced to come in contact with that as we face the damage that we're doing in the ways that we're out of alignment with planetary purpose. So if we just tune the dial a bit more, I think we begin to feel into ourselves as different communities of beings and cultures. I could feel into myself as a global citizen. There's a certain culture as a global citizen that we can feel, that we can manifest. It's around cross-border communication. It's around trans-linguistic and transnational collaboration and cooperation, seeing all of us as a human species, etc. So I can tune into the bandwidth of global humanity, but also I can tune into the bandwidth of being an American. And as an American, I feel the pain and the deep division we have as a national soul right now, with Trump on one side and progressive thinkers on another. And there's a tension and a pain that I feel in my own body, not out there. I feel the division that's coming through us as a nation. I feel that as an American, I feel the pain that causes. Tune the dial a bit more. I live in San Francisco. There's a community here of practitioners that we're all extremely interested in the ways that these topics like purpose, like soul, like spirit, they all come together. How do they fit into a larger framework? How do we balance those with technology and all the interesting things happening in Silicon Valley? So there's definitely a cultural purpose here in San Fran. I tune into myself on a family level. My family has a purpose. I uniquely, individually have a purpose, as we talked about. So I think one of the skills with purpose is practicing what it's like to use that radio dial, to tune into these different layers, tuning it all the way up to cosmic purpose or multi-universe purpose, tuning it down to planetary purpose, to cultural purpose, to family purpose, to individual purpose. There's a fluidity or a pliancy that we begin to develop with purpose as we learn to fine tune to all those. And we know in any given moment what bandwidth we should speak from or what bandwidth we should tune into. And I think that's part of what it means to become a purpose master in a certain way, as you're able to ride the whole wave, all the octaves, all the frequency of purpose, and feel them all as in sync with each other and in a harmonious way.
Beautiful. Could you articulate words or images, maybe even gestures? You could do a dance, but if you could demonstrate that a little bit in real time for the viewers, your purpose, your family's purpose, click the planet's purpose as you understand it, click cosmos, and just we could sort of watch the concentric circles moving.
Yeah, for sure. And just to say also that, this is part of my own learning, my own growth. So one of the things I've learned, in writing books is that you write something or I write something, and It's published a year later, and by the time it's out in the world, it's like I've moved on so far from where the original writing was. And so I assume that the same thing will happen with anything that I say here, that, you know, I reserve the right to continue to grow and to evolve. So, personal purpose, and again, this comes through the superhighway of spirit, soul, and personality into this moment. Personal purpose is to find all the ways possible to wake up humanity to their divine nature, whatever that means and however I can, using whatever language or religious or spiritual system that I need to, but to do that in a way that has relevancy for people now in 2017, to translate it in a way that makes sense to them, and give them practices to know that they don't need anyone or anything outside of themselves, that it's all in their own heart. That realization is already native to their own existence. Personal purpose. On a family purpose, it's to create robust and flourishing human beings who each uniquely feel that they have infinite value in their own sense of self and have infinite contribution to make to the world, that allows them to really give back, to both understand with gratitude where they are, but to give back in a way that has positive impact. And my personal hope is that that family purpose is infused with dharma, is infused with a sense of understanding the spectrum of who we are as beings, personality, soul, and spirit. My experience of purpose on a sort of larger, I guess, let's say, Western scale. I'm going to zoom really far out. On a Western scale, the West has been brilliant at a few things. So one is that understanding that there is an evolution to the cosmos, and that there is a progressive unfolding and ever-increasing emergence of potential and possibility. This is something that I find has been one of the deepest gifts of both Western cosmologies and science, but also elements of evolutionary psychology and other dimensions that we're just learning about, just scratching the surface. Another gift of the West is that we understand that not all of our identity or personality is fully aware in our everyday consciousness. We have a sense that deeper sense of who we are and what we're manifesting in the world is some of it's unconscious and some of it's conscious. And I think that's like really a gift of the West, that we do have shadow or unconscious aspects of ourselves. So when I think about the purpose of the West, it's to really introduce a sense of evolutionary understanding, but also that we're not aware of the full picture in any given moment. So we have to actually excavate and explore dimensions of ourselves and of our culture that perhaps have been left behind. So that's really the gift of the Western sort of world or culture, the purpose of the West in a certain way. Again, broad brushstrokes. As a planet, my sense is that humanity, as it exists on Earth, is one among many humanities in the cosmos. I think anybody who's looked at just the probability numbers of what it means to birth life and how many planets there are on the world, how many planets there are in what are called the Goldilocks zones that are probably at the right temperature or may in fact have water. It's very clear to me, at least I feel confident in saying that we're not unique and that we're not alone, that there are other humanities. And so from that perspective, my sense is that Earth has a particular role, the planet Earth, in discovering itself as a planetary consciousness that then can, as a we, contribute to a larger community of people from other humanities, from different star systems, different planetary systems. To me, it's not until we as a planetary species come online to know ourselves as a we that we'll actually be aware of or invited into some type of larger cross-planetary conversation or cross-planetary civilization. So as a planet, I feel like we're coming to know ourselves as a planetary we and articulating that and learning how to speak as one. That's our current, in this phase, our purpose. I think as a larger universe, I'm sure something similar, fractally, is unfolding, that we as different planetary, galactic communities of beings and people are learning how to gain the wisdom gained from each unique planet and then synthesize that into a larger universal set of teachings and understandings about reality, and learning to speak as one, as a universal galactic alliance. And I have no doubt that then this will continue at planetary scales, at galactic scales and at universal scales. Universes coming together, forming larger and larger we's. So to me, there's a directionality there that I think is extremely important. If we understand the unique individual fractal and the contribution and gift that we have to the whole, as an individual to the whole, as a West to the planet, as a planet to human, common other humanities, as other humanities engage together in other universes, there's a clear pattern of unfolding of purpose that I think has a continuous thread. But it always combines unique gifts, unique offerings, and how those contribute and serve something larger and something whole. And that pattern of unique offerings, larger wholes, I think is something that I would guess has some sort of universal embedded structure into it that we'll find fractally all the way up and all the way down.
Your purpose, as I told you, I've been asking everybody these sort of 8 standard questions.
Great.
So I'll just briefly define them and let them take you where they will.
Okay.
So the broad question, if I were just to use the white light before breaking it down into the prism of eight individual pieces, if I said to you, what is your understanding of your purpose?
So I've been very blessed to have come across great beings and teachers in my life who have been able to open to me the possibility of what it means to recognize our true identity, our true self as absolute consciousness. And once I was given that opportunity to taste that, or gifted that opportunity, shown that it was possible, it was like I have had no other choice but to help others also come to know and come to recognize that. And for me, helping people understand their true sense of self, their true sense of identity as unbounded wholeness, the release and the liberation that provides for people, the sense of being home, the sense of knowing that everything's okay, has been something that brings such joy into my life to watch people open to that. It brings such meaning to my life, and it brings meaning to other people's lives. So I'd say primarily my purpose is to help introduce people to that aspect of their own awareness that's always present, that's always here, but perhaps they haven't been able to recognize. Secondarily, I love to hold a practice that I call Golden Shadow. And Golden Shadow is the practice of seeing people in their highest and most evolved form. So when I interact with people and when I work with them, I'm not only seeing them as beings who are already awake to their true nature, but I'm seeing them as beings who are already awake to their soul's purpose. So there's a particular orientation, part of my purpose, that helps other people step into their own mastery. There's a phrase that's used in the Trans-Himalayan teachings called the externalization of hierarchy. It's a fancy way of saying that we're all masters, and that we all have the capacity to externalize or to bring forth the ways in which we're a master. And for me, it's been, I think, part of my own experience, because I've shared, others have helped me do this, and it's almost like a passing on of the baton to help others do the same. So, in short, purpose for me is helping people wake up to their true nature as unbounded wholeness, as the cosmos, and then to help them step into themselves as masters who are here to serve, who are here to love, and who are here to bring forth the real potential of planetary purpose that we're all here to manifest.
I keep wanting to stand up and cheer. That's what just energetically is happening. All right, so, and you'll end up repeating, but
Sure.
in case that piece doesn't make it,
Yeah.
just, these nuggets. So, two questions, your vision and your task. The vision, as I conceive it, is sort of the 20,000 foot perspective. The task, the task or mission is more like the bricks. The vision is the architecture of the house. So for you, what is your understanding of the vision of your purpose and the current or next mission or task of your purpose?
Great. All right, so the vision and mission or task of my purpose. The vision is that there are many, many other people just like me who are helping others step into their own mastery and who are helping others to wake up. And part of the vision is that we all begin to work together more fully and more closely. So one of the analogies that a friend of mine, Bruce Lyon, shared with me that I now share with others, more of a metaphor, is that we're moving from a solar age where there's suns, and around those suns there are planets. You think of the sun as the spiritual teacher, planets as the students who need the light of the sun in order to know their own light. So we're moving from an era, from a solar era to a galactic era. And in the galactic era, of course, the sun and the planets will still exist. That doesn't go away. There will be planets that need light and to light themselves up all the time that will eventually turn into suns. That'll continue. But in the galactic era, something's different, where you zoom out and you recognize that there are many suns, not just one sun, but there are many suns that are standing together in constellations. And those suns that are together in constellations, or as a galaxy, all revolve around a black hole of potentiality. The black hole of potentiality is in the center of our cosmos. It's in the center of our being as suns. And as each of us step into our own sonship, into our own mastery, we can begin to look to our right and left, up and down, forward and back, and recognize there are other suns. And there are suns that are here to actually fulfill a deeper destiny. And we align ourselves to that destiny through attuning to that black hole center. And there's something in that that helps me hold the vision of why I'm here and what I'm doing. I'm magnetizing other suns and helping them recognize themselves to stand in formation around this event horizon of the black hole. That's one. I've called that bright alliance. Bright alliance being that suns are bright. Suns have a sense of knowing, a sense of optimism. We use the word bright to mean many different things. Alliance meaning not only standing together, but standing together in a direction, that they're standing together with purpose. And so for me, the vision of bright alliance is something that was actually just given to me. It was like a sudden download in my sleep. And it was spoken to me, dictated to me, and I've carried that with me. So bright alliance is really my vision. Bright alliance of suns. A bright alliance of suns standing around this black hole of potentiality together. My mission or my task or how I'm doing it is through an international multimedia company called Bright Alliance. So far I've been publishing books. I've published somewhere between 10 and 12 books over the past couple of years of different teachers and teachings, offering things along these lines. Soon we'll have a book coming out on purpose that Jonathan, you'll be contributing to. And to me, there's something around the publication of books that felt like a good first step, but it certainly isn't the end goal. That there's a way to use media today, to use the internet through groups like a dear friend of mine, Adil, who runs Unify. Unify has about 1 million likes on Facebook, unifying humanity. Unify describes themselves as being what the United Nations was for nations, the Unify is for people. And there's a way to work with groups like Unify to do massive collective meditations, to share these soul teachings and sun teachings in a larger scale as a collective through Bright Alliance, that I think we'll start to find a culture emerging on our planet where teachers teach together and light up planets in ways that have never been lit up so quickly and so immediately before, because there'll be a resonance between teachers and students, or group teachers and group students. And so for me, bricks and mortar, on the ground tasking, it's publishing books, teaching courses, it's creating the web content and partnerships with people like Unify so that Bright Alliance can take its full form here on Earth.
And at a soul level, you might even say personality level, but at a soul level, in order to move the vision forward and accomplish these tasks, what powers or gifts or genius have been given to you to move this work forward, your soul's core powers?
Great. Love that question. I've been given the gift of magnetism, where there's a certain way, if you think about a planet has enough weight, enough gravity to magnetize a moon. A sun has enough gravity, enough weight, enough magnetism to hold planets, a series of planets in its orbit. A black hole has the capacity to actually hold whole constellations of suns in its orbit. And so, for me, at the very least, I'm a sun, and I'm working on what it's like to hold that gravitational field through magnetism of planets. But I certainly feel more and more, and at least I aspire in the most humble way, to be able to start bringing together more teachers, more suns, so they can share with each other and they can share with the world. And as I step into that capacity, as I increase that superpower of magnetism, I have every intention to use it just to be of the highest service and the deepest service, to magnetize great beings together to share and to liberate the world. And in addition to magnetism, I have an infinite well of love that lives in my heart. And there's something about my personality's experience or my soul's experience that allows me to just love everybody so deeply. And so I think one of my other superpowers is to just offer unconditional love to the world and to other people in a way that makes them feel safe and held. And through feeling love in that way, there's a way that their defenses can relax and they can actually just open into their own mastery and into their own potential. And so I'd say those two things, magnetism and love, are my two superpowers so far that I know about.
You have a few others, but I won't. It's your interview. Soul's core values. There are values that feel, you've actually touched on it, but values at the deepest level that support, inspire, and incite the vision. Is that what's your understanding of your soul level values?
So, love, this value of loving the inherent value of every human being, of holding everybody I meet in a heart field that allows them to open to their own potential. So love is one value. Striving towards goodness. So love and goodness. Goodness being that always trying to do what is highest and best for everyone involved. All people, all species, inanimate and animate beings, sentient and not. There's a sense of goodness being fundamental or core to my soul. There's also a sense of beauty. There's something about the beauty of the world, the beauty of human beings, the beauty of environments, and how beauty influences the way that we interact with each other, ourselves. There's something about beauty that I think humanity hasn't fully accessed with regard to spiritual possibility. So love, goodness, beauty. And then the other core value, I mean, some of these sound cliche, but is finding a universal harmony with both the self, with others, with life, there's a pattern that we can actually find in ourselves that allows us to resonate harmoniously, to vibrate harmoniously at all octaves or all scales of life. And to me, harmony actually relates deeply to purpose, because if we're on purpose, we often have the experience of being in harmony with ourselves and others. When we're off purpose, things feel like a struggle. There's sort of a trudging through things that are really challenging. That's not to say that purpose means that things are easy, but it means that things are in flow, and that even if things are difficult, there's a naturalness to the unfolding. And so I think harmony, love, goodness, and beauty are the core values of my soul if I had to package them up and offer them over.
Thank you for your generosity. The next two questions go together, but the first will be around essence, and the second will be around the giveaway, or unique transformational process.
Mm-hmm.
The essence is Dustin walks into a room. Before he says or does anything, there is a light, a transmission, with like anybody. For someone to turn towards you and just experience it, they could potentially be transformed and nourished by the experience. Whereas the unique transformational process will often look like a set of steps. So for instance, in my work, the modules are one of my unique transformational processes. So starting with essence, and you may not even be aware of it because you're swimming in it all the time, but maybe you are aware of it. What is the essence of you that has the potential of being a gift to your people without you saying or doing anything?
My essence. It's related. There's a sense of presence, that even if I don't say anything or don't engage with people, there's a sense of presence that people feel. And in addition to presence is a sense of care. So presence and care, I would say, are my essence. And that can have, that by itself can have, very positive effects. The second piece of the question was about how do those package, or how do those actually unfold?
Yeah, my giveaway, the thing that I do again and again in a variety of delivery systems. What's the steps or process or blessing that you tend to kind of do in your books, in your speaking, in your teaching?
I give people hope that there's a process that all of us have access to. There's teachings that all of us have access to. There are aspects of our own awareness that everybody can access that will offer you that one thing that you're really looking for, a sense of being home. That's in everything I do, in my writing and in my teaching, and when I work with people individually and in groups. It's to continually hold open the portal of possibility, that there's something more, that their deepest dreams can be met. And it's not often what people think. It's not about the white picket fence. It's not about making a lot of money. It's not about infinite pleasure or power. But there is something, and there's something about coming to know your own true nature as this infinite field of awareness love that does provide what you need, that does provide what you truly desire. So everything that I do and the method of how I do it provides hope for people. And I hope that becomes clear to people as they work with me. I hope that they would recognize that.
You're under no obligation to do so, but are there a few sort of steps? So hope is almost maybe more of it's the general shape or texture of your giveaway.
Yep.
But are there sort of a process that you tend to, someone comes to you and it's clear they're your people?
Yep.
How do you mentor them?
Yeah. So I found that one of the most effective ways of taking the idea of hope and actually delivering it into real time and real experience is through guiding people through their own awareness, through meditation. I work with people in such a way that through building a relationship together, I find this most effective one-on-one. It certainly works in groups too. But there is a very clear step-by-step process that I can help walk people through giving very particular instructions about what to notice in their own experience, that in a very short period of time I can help them come in contact with these deeper aspects of their being. And the only reason I even know how to do that is through the teachings and the style of teaching that I've learned from my own teacher, Daniel P. Brown, in the Tibetan traditions. There's a style of teaching called pointing out, where the meditation instructor points out different aspects of experience. And I've had the privilege of pointing out alongside Dan Brown, my teacher, on retreat, teaching in Mahamudra. And in my own personal practice with people, it's become very natural to learn unique forms of meditative pointing out instructions that step by step can take the idea of hope and help lock it into someone's direct experience, that something's possible for them right now in the moment. So I'd say that that's probably the methodology I use most often, is step-by-step guiding people through meditation, because I found it to be the direct path.
Message.
Mm-hmm.
If soul looked for 30 seconds and everyone in the world were
Yeah.
able to hear, what
Yeah.
would you want to say?
Mm.
What would soul's purpose would like to say?
Mm.
The message.
Mm-hmm. Know that you're deeply loved by the cosmos, and that there's an aspect of your own being that has always been free and has always been whole, and that it's possible, either completely on your own or with the guidance of others, to come to know that aspect of yourself in a very direct and immediate way. And that when you come to know that free and liberated aspect of yourself that is unbounded wholeness, that is a field of infinite loving awareness, that when you come to know that it's possible to stabilize that recognition moment to moment. That means not just coming to know it once in a glimpse, but that it's possible to maintain that consistently over time, 24 hours a day. And that's the whole point, is to never leave that particular recognition or that realization of unbounded wholeness. And it's from that foundation, from that realization, that you can allow your full soul's purpose emerge and your personality's purpose to emerge. But you never have to leave that ground in any given moment. And the more you do that, the more that the actions that you display in your life will have benefit for others. And the more that you'll come to know and share what it's like to live from that space of home with others in your own life.
There are steps and giveaways and unique transformational processes, but there are numerous delivery systems by which you deliver your work, perhaps writing, speaking, teaching. So what are some of the ones that really just excite you and bring you alive? Delivery system.
Great. So originally I thought it was writing, because writing was really where I cut my teeth. It was the place where I felt like I could synthesize massive amounts of information and then begin to share those and package them and offer them to others. And I still get some juice through writing, and I have several books out there floating in the world, and I'm sure I'll continue to write for the rest of my life. But the more and more that I started to work with groups directly, live in real time, I began to recognize that there was an impact that's immediate that can happen through sharing particular ideas or through giving particular meditative instructions. And so for me, the one-on-one format or the group format has been so incredibly fulfilling as a delivery mechanism. There's something about being either in real time or live on the phone or through teleconference with someone or video conference. There's something about that synchronous meeting at the same time in the same moment, and actually then connecting that aspect of me that feels infinite with the aspect of the other person that feels infinite, that it feels like the most effective medium ever. And I'm sure that there will be attempts to replace those mediums with automated versions. For example, I have a meditation app and other things. But I don't think ever that direct one-on-one synchronous interaction approach, I don't think that delivery mechanism will ever be surpassed. To me, it's the highest and best method, even if it's not as scalable. There's something about it that's extremely effective. So I prefer it.
So now the lightning round.
Okay, let's do it.
Same 8 questions.
Okay.
And as close to one sentence or 2 as you can.
Let's do it.
Okay. What is the vision of your soul's purpose, Dustin?
To help beings wake up and to recognize that they're already whole and already perfect on the most fundamental level.
And what is your soul's core power or powers?
To attract, to magnetize, and to manifest the brightest and highest potential here on the planet.
And your soul's core values?
Love and goodness, and creating a field of beauty that allows love and goodness to flourish.
Your soul's essence, the thing that you offer people without even speaking or doing a thing.
A sense of presence and love.
Your giveaway or unique transformational process.
That I help guide people to more fully understand their own direct experience moment to moment through meditative instruction.
Your task or mission.
To bring forth a bright alliance of sons who are here to share spiritual teachings from traditions and non-traditional contexts so that the great human lineage, the great treasury of human wisdom can be fully acknowledged and manifest on earth.
Your soul's message to your people.
Never give up. That there is a core of goodness and love at the center of your being that you can come to access and then stably recognize forever.
Your delivery systems for your soul's purpose.
Writing, teaching, and loving.
2-part question. There'll be people who are listening to this and will go, well, I don't know if I have a purpose. So the first question is, does everybody have a purpose? And then the second, bigger question is, if everybody has a purpose, why does it seem that so few people are awake or enlivened to it and can describe it and embody it?
Yes, everybody has a purpose, even you. You have a purpose on the level of personality. You have a purpose on the level of soul. You have a purpose on the level of spirit, to wake up, to know your true nature. You also have purpose that moves through you on a planetary scale, on a galactic scale, on a universal scale. So you have so much purpose moving through your body, just about fine-tuning and learning how to recognize it and resonate with it. So to say, why are more people not in tune with it? The fundamental reason is that we don't have the right North Stars. We don't have the right constellations through which we navigate. So I often use the metaphor that finding purpose is like, it used to be like when we would sail the seas using stars to navigate. So it's not that you need to know that purpose is a thing. Purpose is a direction. It's about finding the constellation or the North Star in your own life and then actually resonating with that, moving in that direction. So one of the things that I found in my life is that purpose was a feeling of calmness. There was something about finding purpose that I felt like, oh, there was like an effortless opening in that space where I didn't have to try. It was almost like if I was moving through the cosmos at 1,000,000 miles an hour, it was like if I would take a particular form, let's say this form is my purpose, and it was a little bit off, like there'd be like little debris and things hitting my hands. But if you find the right angle, the right shape of your body, the right shape of your own purpose, and you fit into that particular shape in just the right way, it's like you soar through the cosmos and no debris hits you. It's like you've just found you've locked it into place. And so in order to do that, you have to find those North Stars. See what makes you calm, what actually makes you feel at peace when you think about acting or manifesting or conduct in the world. Where do you find that? And as soon as you find it, use that as a constellation to navigate your own purpose, like wayfinding.
So I'm sitting and I'm watching you on YouTube, and I'm sold, but I have fears and concerns like, Dustin, what happens if I find my purpose and I live it and I'm laughed at, or nobody likes it, or I'm not able to earn a living? You know, I'm hearing these voices.
Yeah. Living your purpose will likely be scary, and there will likely be tons of fear that comes up for you, because oftentimes it means that we have to rearrange certain aspects of our life to be true to ourselves. Maybe we've committed to certain cultural patterns or familial patterns that are no longer serving us, that we've committed to because we weren't fully aligned with purpose. So when those things get shaken up, or when things need to be reoriented, it can be totally terrifying. And I would just encourage you to do three things. One is find a community of practitioners who are also trying their best to find purpose. This community can be a resource for you to then find strength in times when things are terrifying or are scary. The second is find a set of frameworks or teachings that help you more fully align with purpose. There can be something like the Purpose Guides Institute that Jonathan's offering. You can explore books like Earth is Eden or Streams of Wisdom that I've written to find out how you align with teachings and frameworks that really help you with purpose. And find a mentor. Find someone in your life who can actually serve as a guide, who can actually serve as someone who can help give you pointers, who can be a real relationship for you, and can, for a period of time, provide a North Star for you as a real human being. In my own life, all of those have played a super incredible role for me. And I would encourage, any of you listening to perhaps do the same.
I'm so taken by this, what you're offering here. How can I find out more about your work and your books? Do you have a website somewhere I can take the next step with you?
Yeah. Please check out my work at brightalliance.org, BRIGHTALLIANCE.org, or DustinDiperna.com, DustinDiperna.com. And you'll find out everything you need, both of those resources. And search for me on Amazon, plenty of books there too.